Hello and welcome to another episode of Winning for Life, Be Winspired. And just at the beginning of the year, I thought it's good to talk a little bit about transformation. And my guest today is a former world champion, let's say simply in bodybuilding. And it's always an interesting question, if you're world champion, what happens afterwards? There is in this sport not a higher goal. Is it going down? Is it transformation? What will happen then? And this lady has a special journey from working on the body, still in the health industry or health business as a health coach. And she developed herself to a lot of more also energy work. Also working on the form, and now more on the invisible also. It's very interesting. And I hope there will be some value for you, especially the beginning of the year 2025. So, and now, welcome, Paula Boyce. I just talked about, you heard it, about special journey from someone who, as whatever reason, started to say, oh, I go in competition and go for a world championship. So what made you do this? And what changed for you then when you reached the title?
Good question. Thank you for having me. So the whole journey to world championship wasn't a direct path. It was very indirect. Having interest in health and wellness for a very long time. This may sound very fickle, but I met my personal trainer as I was out walking or something like this. And I've always wanted to have great legs. That was it. Certainly, as a personal trainer, you want someone to have a very symmetrical or very balanced physique. So he was like, we should kind of work on your whole body. I was like, okay. And then as I progressed, he saw my potential and said, oh, maybe you should consider competing. I was like, I'm not sure about this. However, you're getting up every day very early, investing your time, your attention, and so on. And it may make sense to try. Certainly, when you've not done something, it is very scary. And even if you've done it 1 or 2 times, it still remains a little bit scary. And so pretty much that was where the journey started. So I believed in Mike because my coach believed in me.
So that was the first, at least one of the first transformations already, from the idea to really go for the goal.
Exactly. It took me many months to decide that. Because imagine the history growing up in church, then I'm going on a stage in a very tiny bikini. And having to do something that is a little different from what would be accepted, I guess, in a kind of church setting, was a little bit scary. I've always had the food down pat by that. I always enjoy food, so that's never a problem to choose right. The exercise is also something that I did regularly, so I think it was easy to kind of start dieting for a competition and so on, but it was the mental things and the upbringing and so on. Those are challenges in the background. And then you don't want to disappoint the coach. So a whole set of scary thoughts in my head. However, we did it eventually. And so after a world championship in bodybuilding, this is with the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation, by the way, what happens? You get your pro card, which means that you can compete at a pro level. However, I was never really interested in the competition per se. I wanted to see, okay, I'm from a really small island, Barbados, 166 square miles. I trained in a very small studio, not the big box gym, not lots of access to sponsors, sponsorships, and so on. And therefore, this first attempt was really, let us go do a flyover. Let's go see, what the competition looks like, how it goes, what is the international criteria, and so on, because it may be a little bit different from what is written on paper. And let's just go see how we do. So that that was really what happened. and we went and we conquered. And that really blew my mind. Because there you have it, small island girl training in a studio and no access. And it just didn't actually, and we have an inside joke too. Even like the team clothing or whatever, imagine sitting on an aircraft and you see the threads kind of becoming undone. So it's not like we're in like any brand or anything. So it's just funny how things work out. And so really that is what happened. But you know, I've heard many people say it is not really about the journey, but who you become. And until that really happened, I was like, yeah, whatever. You can see it.
Did I get it right? It's not about the journey, who you become.
It is who you become in the
It's who you become. Yeah.
Yeah. Many people have said that in the past, and it's like, what are you talking about? It did not make sense to me until actually when I was standing on that stage in Atlantic City in America in 2012, receiving that trophy, everything slowed down. They announced your name and then you need to do a walk or something. So I did that, and as I was walking, I was processing the entire evening, and everything became really slow. I could see what transpired before. I could see the crowd. It just got rather still. And then I had one thought. And that thought was, if I could do this, what else can I do? And am I playing small?
Well, that's very interesting because I don't know if the statistic is right, but you know, a lot of people who accomplish big goals, they can go afterwards in a kind of depression because what now? But you used it to really, not saying on the level, just even, okay, what could be even more challenging for me in becoming what?
That is right. That evening, that was the thought. After that, maybe there was a little bit of a depression. At the time, I also happened to be reading one of Jack Canfield's books, Success Principles. And I always enjoyed reading quotes from the time I was a child. And there were some quotes in there, and the entire book was so inspiring. I came home and I quit my job. I don't recommend that. Don't quit your job when you get some insight that you may be heading in the wrong direction. I quit my job.
But sorry to interrupt, but didn't say it before, because I guess you needed to train a lot.
Yeah, of course.
But you had a job, and so you did it besides your job training. So it was really challenging, say, organizational week all the time.
Of course. So I wasn't paid. I wasn't a professional yet. I got my pro card then. So I didn't have sponsors or anything supporting the cause. It was just me, right? And so I needed a full-time job. And my full-time job was very demanding. I was the business development officer for an organization in Barbados that worked with the private sector, public sector, and NGOs and so on as their business development officer, as I said. This was in customer service. And I helped to establish the NICE Customer Satisfaction Index. So we were doing quality scores for industries. I really loved it because my master's is actually quality management. And I got that from Nottingham Trent University in the UK. So I was really living my best life, or I thought so. It's fine. But it would mean 5 a.m. being at the gym, which meant maybe leaving home around 4:30 or 4:45, but the gym was close to me. That is another story. And going to the gym, coming home, taking a shower, prepping for work, driving 30 minutes there, doing my job, and sometimes even sleeping at the office. This happened once or twice, but we have big projects. It's a small organization, but really doing big things. And that's one of the things I really admired about my boss as well, because she supported this wholeheartedly. And it really brings me to almost the tears to kind of think about it. But yes, full-time committed to my job as well as doing this.
May I point this out, what you said, just so kind of a side. They're saying just the small company can do big things. You can come from a small town or a small gym and can make big things. It doesn't matter really what you have as normal resources. It is so much more about what? Mindset, decision, or what is it?
That's a good question. Definitely it's a mindset thing. Because certainly I could think I'm from a small place and can't, or I could think I'm from a small place or could. But then it makes me think, where did I think I had to be from a bigger place to do? So it's also about your environment, I imagine, those people that have...
Like she supported you, the coach supported you.
100%, yeah.
But when you said mindset, yeah, there is for sure the thought, but how was it really for you that you were thinking first? Or was there something also kind of inside of you says, like even winning the world champion says, what can I do? Is it the thought first, or is this a feeling first? What else can I use it for? Where does it really come from? First the thought, and then, oh, okay, I can follow my thoughts. Or you have a kind of whatever inner voice, like some people say calling, and then you translate it in thoughts. And then you need the mindset not to kill it directly.
That's a good question. If I trace back that particular event as in winning the world championship, there was, as the evening progressed, there was a feeling, oh, you could do this. You could do this. And certainly there was that thought, but I think it was more a feeling. That for me, it rises up in my heart when it lets me know, like, I'm on the right path, or like something is happening here, like open your eyes. I'm not sure which came first, but there was definitely that thought, you could.
This is so good, yeah. So, and now we come to the, again, transformation, what happened afterwards. And somehow, again, it didn't change so much. The item was still small, and okay, you even giving up your job, so even less support or whatever, but somehow ready to go for whatever, call it higher level or different things, bigger goals.
Yeah. After quitting the job, it was more finishing or completing some things I started. So I love learning. My friends and I joke that I'm a professional student and I really don't care. And so I finished my personal training certification because my personal trainer, his name is Kurt Fryan, and he's one of the most amazing trainers. He studied in the UK and he's worked with a lot of, I guess, quote unquote, celebrities that would have come to Barbados, had property and land and stayed there and so on. So he also is a big ticker. And so going back to what we said, environment is important. So yes, so I finished the personal training certification because I wanted to understand why I was doing what I was doing in the gym, because there are so many...
It was after the World Championship?
I had started it.
Okay, you started it before, or that was the reason why you started it?
Yes. Yeah, I started it while I was employed, but I was so busy.
To support the competition idea?
Not necessarily, because my trainer was the best. It was really for my knowledge.
Okay.
After I joined the studio, Body by Kirk, and he was so professional and could like spot potential. He could see someone walking down the street and he could say, oh, this person has great calves, or they're very symmetrical, or he could just point out anything like that. You know, there are people that have a touch, and then for one thing, he was one of them. And so I was really inspired by that. And I also wanted to know, okay, I'm doing a squat. Where should my hips really be? What is the science, the anatomy and stuff like that? It was more for my personal knowledge. However, so I finished the personal training certification. and actually had some clients of my own and trained them at his studio. So over the years, maybe now nearly 20 years, we have a super friendship. So I finished the personal training certification, as I said, and I actually continued working for this organization, but more on as a consultant or on other projects. So that was amazing. So downstairs was my regular job, and then upstairs I worked with a cruise company. So I've always wanted to work for cruise ships, but I got offered a Commonwealth scholarship or working on Disney, and I took the scholarship. But at the back of my head, I always have this thing: what if you did that? So working shoreside with this in cruise company really gave me great joy and a sense of freedom. So I was able to do all the things that I enjoyed. And certainly I said my master's was in like strategic customer and service management, which is a quality management degree. And I also did some training in that area as well. So, all good.
So if I try to understand it, it is after the championship, there was a period of extreme focus to make this happen. Then the professional student broke through and says, now we are not so focusing so much. We love to learn a lot of things. And yeah, but one day, I guess, maybe there came a little bit more focus again. And if it's true what I guess or not, we figure it out. So, guessing is often just a kind of lottery, so and so what kind of ticket was I drawing here? Some truth in it or totally nothing? So what happened? Did it came a focus came again?
Yeah, I think there was ultimate focus. I'm saying this calmly now, but this was not a straight line at all, okay? And it was overcoming lots of fears and all of that.
Fears?
Yes.
Oh, so what happened? The joy of studying a lot of things? And where comes the fear in?
I think it was mostly the transition of being part of a company and being a...
On your own?
Yes.
Okay.
Start. And ultimately, Barbados is a small place. I'm a private person. So now getting into the limelight and telling people about your thing, I'm not good at telling people my thing. Good at telling people about other people's things and connecting people. So those things, they work itself out. What I'm thinking now, I have my timeline a little bit twisted. I think time changed up on me a little bit. So 2012 was the World Championships. I actually did my master's in 2007. Okay. So many things have happened. And I've done so many things that I get the timeline twisted sometimes. After this, though, I absolutely love food, as I said before. So I often took tons of photos, posted them on Facebook, and I would get people in my inbox saying, but how is it possible to look how you look and still be eating the things that you eat? I was like, what do you mean? And the thing about it, because things come easy to us, we take it for granted, or I do, that it's also easy for people, or based on my knowledge or the things I've done or achieved, some people, maybe you assume that they should know, and then you come to a place where you realize they don't. And this has been the thing around food. So yes, I can have chocolate cake, and yes, I can still eat the steak. Yes, I can have the salmon. Yes, I can have the salad. However, I wanted people to understand you can love food, you can love your body, and you can look great in your body as well. That is a choice.
But that is, for me also then really a big paradigm shift, because my image so far of a bodybuilder is, wow, very limited what to eat, whenever they eat, a lot of just maybe protein powder and everything. But you can eat what you love to eat and still look good and have this. So there must be something to it.
Yeah, there is. There is. So when people were asking me this, I got the inspiration to do a food tour. it goes without saying, in my past life, I also studied tourism and hospitality management. And, I decided that I was going to do some food tours.
What is a food tour?
For me, my food tour, I had two versions, a casual version and a classic version. Casual version included a morning hike in the countryside. We stopped at an organic farm so people understood.
So it was on a tour on the island where you explained about food or explaining what it does in the body or everything?
All of those things, but in bite-sized pieces. The main points, because we drown ourselves in information and misinformation. So for this casual one, it was an active thing. So first we started at a point, and then we hiked a couple miles to this organic farm, and we talked about food and vegetables and, protein and pairing and that type of thing. Can't remember what the conversation was about, but it was more about this is where your food comes from. Okay.
Do I understand it right, that, or interpret it right, that you are kind of advocate for eat what is in the area where you're living or grown up?
I would recommend that. However, we understand too that some people don't have access. But yes, I would say that. It's a great idea to eat what's in season, what's around you, and so on. However, also good to include experimentation. So I'm from a place, we have fish, yes, but we don't eat sushi, but it's not a big stretch. So,
and I don't want to assume now that that's why you left the island to eat something else.
Well, I do travel for food, but no, that's not why I left. Okay. But when I leave, usually it's food. I'm there about food. So the casual tour, morning hike, farm tour, then coconut water stop. We had a coconut vendor, and then we returned to this area, and there my personal trainer, we're still friends at this point, although we had some rough moments, and he did a cool down, and then people had an amazing lunch that I kind of curated and taught to the chef how to prepare it and so on. And then people could relax on the beach. So that was the casual one. And the other version, people love getting dressed up. And when the lights go down, restaurant prices go up, and then the alcohol comes out. And this is a reality for a lot of people. And some people think, well, should I? I can't. I want to cut it out, whatever. So as I said, I went to hospitality school. A friend of mine who was a barman was talking about alcohol and so on, like how to read a cocktail menu. For example, if you want to stay away from sugar and so on, maybe try this or try that. So he was really, really a good resource. People really enjoyed knowing that, yes, if you are into alcohol, you can have some alcohol, however, moderation.
So if I understand it right, the tour is a kind of seminar in different places and different experts.
That's correct. Of course, people go out and, have a good time. So it was that type of tour. Ladies and gentlemen get dressed up. We started at a bar and we went to 2 different restaurants. The first one, we had a mixologist who, of course, talks about alcohol, etc., because people do indulge occasionally. The second part, we were more dealing with how to read a menu, etc. And the final part, we did, there was a chef and he talked about choosing cookware and so on, because of certainly what you cook in is also important. What you cook in and what you cook on. So it was
I think that's a point we really need to make clear. It's not just the food you eat. The process of preparing it is very important, what in the end comes in the body.
100%, yes. I totally agree with that. So fun was had by all. And people understood that, yes, you can go out, have a great time, and make choices that are in alignment with your goals. So that was really, really fun to do.
And alignment with the goals, I know from Liverpool, the soccer team, they have for every player different food. Yeah, because they need something different to be in their best shape. And when you said with the process, I remember I once attended in South Africa a coffee workshop. I was invited, had no clue. I thought I learned something about more coffee, was the difference in coffees. But it was not just the main point, it was how they prepared the coffee. It was the same coffee beans, and 6 different ways to prepare it. But there was one, oh, you don't want to like drink it? Some, okay. And some really tasted, yeah, super good. Same coffee, just the preparation.
That
Very interesting, yeah.
totally interesting. We are very unique people, so we need to go through for ourselves and find out what works with us and what doesn't. So, there you have it.
I joked already a little bit, leaving the island to explore different foods, but for me it was, if I look at your bio, really an interesting change from leaving the island and exploring in the UK, Shanghai, Japan. So what was the main drive to study maybe even cultures or different things?
I think each move was motivated by something different. So the Japan chapter, what happened was someone really close to me died, like a mother. And it really made me pause and think what was important in life. You get a good education, you get your house, your family, and so on. And that was, what people did. And I saw her do that and be happy, yes. And at the end of the day, dying in your 15s or 60s, it's almost like you've not necessarily lived fully. And so that made me really pause and think. At the time, a friend of mine who's a chef didn't attend the funeral. He called to give me condolences, etc. And he said, by the way, I was in Japan and I know that you love food and I know that you like great service. I went and both were amazing. You should check it out. And that reminded me, when I was in college, I actually wanted to go to Japan. And when you're a student, you have time sometimes, but you don't have money. Sometimes you have money and you don't have time. Either way, it never happened. And suddenly I felt, ooh, that's probably the next thing I need to do. And I don't typically read the newspaper. And I was at work and I was reading the newspaper and I came across, oh, you can go work in Japan. And I thought, this is interesting. And I applied. Everybody said it's so difficult, so competitive. Many people apply from all over and you're not going to have a chance. I applied. Everything went so easily. And you had to write down, okay, where you'd like to live. I don't like big cities. However, I like the countryside. And there was a spiritual center of Japan called Koyasan. But the problem is the winters are kind of harsh. And I thought, well, I don't want to do that. But Wakayama is close enough, and I saw that. I just wrote it. I never knew anything about it. And I wrote one thing of 3. And that's exactly where I got placed. And that's the story of how it happened, and my life just seems to unfold in that way. So that really is.
So it's something like, would say, oh, the law of attraction. You order the right thing and then you get support. Sounds so simple and easy, but at least luckily it went well for you. But I'm also more interested in the kind of, is it a deeper inspiration or intention? When we started here, also with training, physical body, body forming, world championship on body material forming somehow. And then food is also body related. But now you mentioned spiritual things or inspiration. So what is there a transformation from you going more from the material world also in the, say, non-visible world, working with energies and what works there? Or would you say it was always there?
That's a really good question. I would say it was always there, but as I evolved, it probably got amplified. As I said, my life just seemed to unfold. Some people would say in magical ways, or like life always works for me in some way. And I think the energy was always there. However, I probably didn't know how to tap into it or how to transmute it or how to work with it. And so I probably stumbled around with things happening, but not necessarily know how to pinpoint or direct that energy. But yes, there was definitely some type of energy in my life. Call it God, source, whatever you want to call it. And I think, of course, that's always that's at everybody's life and everybody's life anyway. But I think I got into with it as time progressed.
It is very interesting. We know, we believe later in life often things we don't understand very early when we're young, and we are trained to focus on different things from school system. But when I feel it right now, what you say is there was something happening, and it was the guy in the fitness studios. Something gave you a trust, a kind of guidance to go this way. And now, because I was here asking and a little bit if you're astonished, you can eat all the food you want and be a bodybuilder and have or a good health. That didn't fit my paradigm. But if I try to translate it now, what I now understand, the meaning or what I feel, if you're really good tuned in, then it's a kind of guidance. And it's a guidance for food, it's a guidance, apply for Japan and everything. So in this way, like this way it comes up the question when I just mentioned the law of attraction. That is always an idea. I have an idea and now I attract it. But here it sounds more the opposite. If there's guidance or whatever, or suggestions from the higher self, to just follow. And that is not really attraction. That is really more trusting and like the calling, and go with it. So this way, maybe I had it always, more a little bit the trust.
I think you summed it up very accurately. That was very articulate. That's exactly what it was. It's the tiny nudges, the tiny nudges, the small do this, do that, go here. And sometimes it totally doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So as you said, trust also is important, not in yourself, but in that higher thing that is guiding you, guiding your life, guiding all of us.
It's a question, we talk about the five self often. What is the self? Yeah, when we say I, well, that's just the ego or the limited self here on planet Earth, where we need to, in our body, we go around and need this kind of vehicle.
Right.
But maybe you're trusting really yourself, because then you know also what yourself wants, needs so much better. Yeah.
You're right.
That gives a different understanding. But it's the opposite what most in the whatever health industry and everything is promoted. Eat this and it works for you. Do this and it works for you. And I know, anyway, you're so much more for being the individual. So now you went to Japan and Barbados, America, bodybuilding. You know, in Japan they have sumo ringers and anything, so they have also some very special. But what you would say is the difference in the cultures, and what is it, what you say, value most in your experience in the different culture?
That's a good question. For me, it was more, people seem to be very communal. People think of others, think of family, think of people, and have respect for people who are their elders and so on. And also revering everything.
You say that's special for Japan, but it sounded for me like on the island. And you said, because I was very close to my grandma, and so there was a kind of respect for elders in the group.
This is different level.
Mm-hmm.
This is different level. And not, you have to probably experience it to get it fully. Even in an employer-employee situation, people give lots of respect to the boss. We don't question, or sometimes you can. And it ripples throughout society. So even in elementary school, for example, kids are so independent. They clean the classrooms, they grow their own food, and so on. It's just a different level, a deeply ingrained thing about respect for other people, respect for the environment. And actually, there's something called animism that I learned recently from this Japanese lady who studied religion. And she was saying that, we see God in everything. I was like, okay, that makes total sense. That makes total sense.
If you see God or divine order or whatever thing, it is in everything. And everything is a kind of coming out of the quantum soup made process. And just recently I read something about in the Western world, most kids have no clue where the food comes from, how it's grown and everything. And now you say the Japanese kids grow their own stuff and make it and have more respect. Is this just simply having more respect, or is it maybe something they do understand also so much more what it is that they can respect what is in everything, to see that someone needs to work, that you have food in all this, what we're in the Western world not really realizing anymore. Like kids say, yeah, but you don't have money, go to the machine like others, or electricity comes out of the plug and the food up from the supermarket. So where's the problem? Yeah,
I think that is correct. I think they see the connections that people have with everything and other people. I think they see a little bit deeper. And it's very heartwarming. At things as simple as, for example, if it were my birthday or something. In Barbados, I'd probably go to a really great pastry shop and buy a cake for somebody and give it to them. In Japan, somebody will take their time and make a nice cake or cookies and put their love and their energy in that. And they see that as more valuable than possibly going somewhere and buying something. So
yeah. I can understand it, right? Typically men also, we buy something easier than making things. And as you said, bring love and energy into it, what the chi is in it. And I can feel it also when I go in a restaurant. It can look the same, but it's so different. Did you experience, yes, you later then also went into Reiki and all the energy work, and I'm curious also to learn a little bit more what biogeometry is, because you do today all the energy cleaning and chakra balancing and everything. Where did it start? Already in Barbados, or because you experience more and more the respect or the deeper understanding what you saw there in, let's say, Asia, but especially Japan?
yeah, I think the Japan chapter of my life was more about spiritual growth. Living alone for so many years in nature, deep in the countryside, and seeing all of this and experiencing, getting more clarity about things. And at the time also, I'd committed to solidifying my meditation practice. I was watching some videos from Dr. Joe, and he was saying, Joe Dispenza, and he was saying, when you get into your deep meditation practice, it'll feel so great, you'll not want to come out of it. I was like, yeah, this hasn't happened to me. I've made many attempts. I don't know what you're talking about. However, I did like Silva method and other things, and I understood what he meant. Sometimes I got that feeling like, oh my, I want to stay in this energy. And then I looked at things differently, or things just seemed different. Colors were more vibrant, things were just alive. And I had a number of things happen in my space that I thought I was going a little crazy, to be honest. And I reached out to a friend and I said to her, because she is kind of into energy and these things, and I said, this is what's happening. And it is really interesting. But I'm not sure if I'm imagining all these things or they're really happening. And she was like, no, I'm sure it's really happening or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. And then the conversation continued, and then she asked about Reiki. And I said, funny enough, I actually came to Japan and I was researching it, and I was like, maybe it's not a good time to do that, and I forgot about it. But at that impulse, I felt like this was the next step. This was the next thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to a teacher in Tokyo who was direct lineage to the guy who actually went up to Mount Kurama and, found Reiki, I guess. And so I did the level 1, level 2, and so on. And I actually took a pilgrimage to Mount Kurama, and I thought the energy was just off the charts. And that, I think, really solidified my interest in, like, knowing what is there, and, like, there's more. There is more, and what is it?
So it's curiosity more than calling, or is it calling what gives you the feeling, oh, here is my direction, what I should study?
I think it's part calling, part curiosity, because you can have the call and not necessarily be curious, because it takes a lot of trust. Because, as I said, some of the things just don't make sense.
At least, yeah, because the left brain, which tries to get sense in it, has only a few bytes to digest a limited information, and the whole self can get so much more. And that's what we all have to learn in the Western world, to use the left brain as a servant and not try to follow that. Okay, we have just a few minutes. Just a quick, what is it what you do today? Biogeometry, I saw you doing. So what is the actual work or most time you spend today with?
Well, a combination, but biogeometry was invented by Dr. Ibrahim Karim of Egypt, and Reiki led me to that. And when I went there, I realized there were lots of people who studied Reiki, lots of people who studied feng shui, and so on. But biogeometry is in a category by itself. For Dr. Karim did some work in Switzerland. I think that was very groundbreaking with EMF and so on. But it used these shapes.
What is it really? Using shapes, as you said? But what was the change? So just get on the last minute here, people an idea why they should go, maybe call you, and what they can learn from you, benefit from you.
Yeah, certainly if you're feeling stuck, as if things aren't quite working out, maybe you're not fully aligned, and therefore good energy clearing might be possible to help you. And that's definitely something we can do. However, if you want to study biogeometry, you can check that out through Dr. Ibrahim Karim or the Vesica Institute, since you have to be certified as a teacher to be able to actually share that information. I'll just leave it at that and say biogeometry definitely is indeed life-changing. And if you want to take a deep dive into energy and those things that aren't visible, then check it out. As Dr. Ibrahim Karim says, only those who see the invisible can do the impossible.
That is a nice sentence for the ending for today's episode, and it gives us, I guess, an idea that we need to dive into this more and then take a full episode of biogeometry, or what it's all about, this shapes, geometry, and how it influences our life, and how we can unblock and be free and live up to a full potential, authentic, sovereign, and then winning for life. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Paula, for sharing something from your way, and we're looking forward to dive deeper into this non-visible world.